some tips. So if you are not in credit card debt, a really amazing way to build your score, and we talk about it like going to the 800 plus credit score club at Sequin, is pay your credit card off once a week in full, if possible, instead of only once a month. And if you
Hello, Empower Nation. Welcome to Empower Her Money podcast. I'm your host, Angela Duncan. We talk all things money and business. Today's episode is sponsored by More with Angela, where I help my clients create a passive income strategy to get your hard-earned dollars to work hard for you. Visit morewithangela.com today, schedule a call, and let me help you get started on your passive income journey. Today's episode, I get to interview Brinda Gupta. She is the CEO and founder of Sequin Card. It is the first debit card designed by women for women. She's given you incredible credit card tips today of things you don't know and how she helps to educate her community. Enjoy this episode. Hi, Brinda. Welcome to Empower Her Money podcast. How are you today?
I'm doing so well. Thank you for having me. Super excited about this conversation.
So am I. I heard you recently on So Money podcast, and I knew that you had some incredible information to share with our audience. But I would love for you to first start with your story and kind of how you got to where you're at today.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Brinda Gupta. I'm the CEO and co-founder of a mission-driven fintech called Sequin. And our mission is to empower women financially. And, the story is really personal to me. I am a first generation immigrant. My family and I immigrated to this country when I was very young. And very early on, I noticed, money was power. And I saw, my mom, who is this really fearless immigrant woman who is feisty and has, really made her way in a new country, a new world. She's really afraid of the financial system. And that was the one thing she was really afraid of. And so, whether or not that was the intention, I found my dad making a lot of really important decisions for our family, especially most important decisions do have a financial component. And I found that my mom's voice wasn't as heard. And that woman's voice can be heard from miles away. So I think that was the first time when I really started thinking about the importance of getting a financial education, and especially as women, really understanding the ins and outs of the system. So when I went to seek my first job, I was able to get a job offer at Visa. And again, it was so much more than just a job. It was personal. It was a way for me to empower myself, a way for me to empower my mom, a way for me to, just break this generational money kind of trauma that had, gone woman to woman in my family. And I was building popular credit cards. I had the opportunity to launch a very popular credit card called the Chase Sapphire Reserve.
Mm-hmm.
And many of you listeners might have that in your wallet. That was a product that I worked on along with my team. And I went to apply for the credit card I helped build, and I got rejected. And, I've told the story many times now, but it's still shocking, right? And I think it was that moment where, despite me literally building the product, I still lacked financial education. And so many of us do, and that starts really young. And I went on this kind of expose of the financial system on who it was designed for, who it was not. And, I think all of us as women feel this, but it's very validating to know that the financial system was designed to leave women out of the narrative, in that women could be rejected from credit cards, bank accounts, business loans until the 70s, which really is an ancient history. And that was because we were viewed as more risky. And still today, there are a lot of gaps as it comes to, women and how we are relating to finances, and how we are engaging or not engaging with really important financial products. But the other side of this is, as women, we're going everywhere in society. We have the most spending power of any demographic ever. That is growing year over year. We are as ambitious as ever. And I just felt there was this huge disconnect between who the financial world was designed for and who it's serving versus who is actually controlling the purchase decisions and, going again every place in society. And I felt it was a really important problem to solve and was probably the most important thing that I could do with my life, with my skills, and with my expertise. So enter Sequin.
Yeah, that's amazing too. And funny story too. I'd gone through divorce about 3 years ago. And so, when you go through divorce, you're shutting down credit cards, you're applying for them in your own name. And for the most part, he was the primary. So he would, shut me off from the credit card and I had to go apply. And Chase turned me down as well. And I thought, huh, I wonder why, because I'm pretty financially savvy. I don't have any debt, but I wanted to have a certain card. I love the sapphire card. I love the color of
Oh,
it. And so I went to apply and it said no. And so it kind of set me on a journey of as to why. So I love that you were kind of thinking about that. And now today you have an opportunity for us women to have a card that's more designed for us. So talk about that.
yeah, absolutely. Well, I am really sorry to hear that. And I hear so many of these stories since I've come out with mine. I hear, so many stories of rejection and of course it's not legal to say if you're a woman, then, reject, but there are so many societal factors that go into that. And yeah, so I'll share a bit about Sequin and what we're building.
Yeah.
So essentially, what we started with was just talking to a ton of women, and I kept on hearing the same few things. The first was around credit card debt and how many of us are experiencing credit card debt. And actually, the studies say that women pay half a percentage more in credit card interest rates than men do.
Hmm.
So, so much of this, so many women are like, well, that might just be me. And I'm here to tell so many women that no, this is the way that the industry is. And there are factors that go into that, but many of those aren't in our control, right? The gender wage gap still exists. It's Women's History Month, and I think it's a good time to, talk about some of the realities of, the gender wage gap exists, the pink tax exists. We're not getting educated the same way as little boys are. It starts so early and just never really catches up. So credit card debt was the first one, was just so horrible. And all these questions would come to me around, okay, if I have credit card debt, should I be investing? Should I be doing anything else? And my answer was no. Like if you have credit card debt, the amount that you're paying in interest on average 26% is never going to make up for what you would earn in the stock market, right? That's 7 to 8% adjusted for inflation. So
Right.
debt was a huge, huge problem. The second one was actually around credit card rewards. And I heard so many women say, okay, I opened up a credit card just for the rewards, but now I'm in debt and that was not worth it. But second, the rewards aren't really rewarding where I'm spending. And, many of those cards I helped design, right? And they're around dining, they're around travel. Of course, as a woman, I do those things. I dine and also I travel. But there's so much else that I'm spending on, whether it's health, it's wellness, it's beauty, part of because I want to look a certain way, but also society is telling us as women that we have to look a certain way, right? So there's so many aspects to that. So the rewards were one, getting me into debt, and two, just not relevant to where I'm spending. And then the third was just this overall anxiety around finances. And I would hear it every step of the way where from your first bank account, women are making avoidable mistakes. So we're paying 18% more in banking fees, like overdraft fees,
Mhm.
which is hundreds of dollars a year. I talked about credit card interest. And then even with investing, so many of our assets are just in traditional savings accounts that aren't growing. We're a lot more likely to have that. And so, again, despite women's incredible spending power and just how smart and ambitious we all are. So, I saw those three things and I just said, okay, what can I do about this? And after talking to a ton of women, we came up with our Sequin card. This
Yay.
is a image of it. This one doesn't have a personalized money mantra on it, but all of them do. And you
Mhm.
can have it say whatever you'd like. So mine says give women credit as kind of credit for XYZ thing. But I've seen so many women say, hey, are you sure on the card as they're trying to be, spending more mindfully. I've seen a lot of affirmations as well. I'm hot, smart, rich, like abundance mindset, that type of thing. And we also, I know you mentioned the color of the sapphire card. We had our community vote on the color of this, and we chose coral because it looks good on every skin tone. And most of the cards out there are blue and black and gray, and you don't really see one that looks like this. So we designed it together, and the idea is one, it's a debit card, so you do not ever get into credit card debt, and you no longer have to make that choice between rewards or getting into credit card debt, right? So that's the first. The second, we don't have overdraft fees on our card. That's the main way that banks are making a lot of money off of women's. We don't have that. We do a lot of financial education. So once you become a Sequin card member, you get access to an entire Sequin university where we'll teach you about budgeting. We'll teach you about spending mindfully. We'll teach you about building credit. We'll help you figure out the best credit card for you in a totally non-sponsored way. It's from my experience building these cards. And then we'll teach you also, are you ready to invest? Do you not have credit card debt anymore? Do you have an emergency fund? Do you have your basics covered? And what's the best option for you as well? So it's not financial advice, but it's an entire kind of financial education repository. You can go at your own pace. There's courses, quizzes, calculators. And best of all, there's an entire community of women that are rooting for you. And this really is a movement on women are so ambitious. Our spending power is incredible. And we want to make sure that we are doing the right thing with our finances and that we're closing these gaps as it relates to education and also the product benefits and also the way that these products are designed. So end to end building the first debit card designed by and for women in US history. All genders are welcome as long as they are allies. So,
Yeah.
yeah, so that's our product. That's how we built it.
Yeah, and I love that you're giving cash back because you touched briefly on pink tax, and I know what
Yes.
that is. But obviously, you're giving cash back on items that we're using. So, just for the audience that may not know what a pink tax is, go ahead and tell us.
Yeah, absolutely. So the pink tax is essentially a markup where women are paying more for everyday products and services 42% of the time. And that's not lip gloss, it is hygiene products, right? It's deodorant, it's shampoo, it's body wash, and it's basically just gender-based price discrimination where, okay, a razor marketed to men is going to be cheaper than a razor marketed to women. And this
Mhm.
isn't an official tax, but there have been so many studies from the Senate, right, at the government level that this is real and women are paying more. And the other piece that we haven't talked about is the tampon tax as well. I'm not sure if you've heard of this one, but in addition to women paying on average $6,000 for period products throughout a lifetime, tampons are still taxed as luxury products in 21 states. And for any person who has ever experienced a menstrual cycle, I would not call it my luxurious time of the month. And if you do count that as luxurious, I envy you. And maybe that's, a superpower that I would want to have is a luxurious time during, my monthly cycle. So, yeah, so that was the idea was women are spending so much in these categories, whether it's health, wellness, beauty, drugstores, gyms, etc., a lot of which make us feel good, and that's amazing. And there's no judgment on women's spending from our end. However, society has a lot of thoughts when it's, spending that seems feminine versus is traditionally masculine, but also counting that society is making us also be a certain way, right? There's so many studies that talk about, if you don't look kempt in terms of society standards, like what are the implications of that on your career, on your life? So yeah, the pink tax is another kind of ugly head in terms of hidden cost to being a woman.
Yeah. So on the Sequin card, you talked about cash back. One of the questions I got from the audience before this episode was, how do credit card companies make money? How are they able to give cash back? So you being an industry insider as well, working from, a credit card company, can you help explain that to the audience?
Yeah, so I actually find all this fascinating and I love this question. So okay. The the truth of it is that the merchant that you're spending at is the one who's funding your rewards. So every time, let's say you take your Sequin card and you take it to a store, right? And you swipe your card, there is a fee that, let's say this merchant is CVS, right? So you go to CVS, you swipe your card, and there's a fee that CVS needs to pay in order to accept the card. Many of you may have seen, we don't accept Amex, right? Or we don't accept credit cards, right? And that's because the fee is really high. And if you're a small business, then it can be really expensive to accept some of those cards. And Amex is known to have some of the highest fees on the market. So essentially, it's that fee gets divvied up between all of the players in the market. And some of that goes back to you as the card holder in rewards. So we are doing something very similar with Sequin and giving you back those rewards where traditional debit cards don't really do that. And we are looking to pass some of that back that we earn on each of your swipes.
Yeah. And so the audience understands too, like you're sharing your profits with the card holders. So that's an incredible benefit. You don't have to do that. You can still, offer services and education, but you're offering cash back and you're educating the audience. I don't know about many cards. Like I can't walk into Bank of America and say, hey, do you have an education portal that can teach me about money? They're going to look at me and probably think I'm crazy, right? So that's incredible that you have like this whole information and database for your clients to be able to jump in and really, further their financial education.
I appreciate that. Yeah, it was so important to me. I think as I look at financial tools, they're so important to our livelihoods, right? Every big goal, life goal that we have is usually tied to a financial goal, whether it's getting an education, getting a home, starting a family, whatever your choice is, there's usually a financial component to it. And I just don't see how we've gone this long without having that education. Like these tools are really powerful if used in the right way, but if used in the wrong way, again, credit card debt is really real. So many of us experience that. Overdraft fees, really real, right? Banks made $13 billion on overdraft fees last year, mostly from women and women of color, right? So it's really important to know as you're getting these tools, it's great if you know how to use them properly. But if not, you are the way that the companies are making their money. And others who aren't making those avoidable mistakes are the ones that are benefiting from you. So my goal is women are no longer paying that, and the system is not being built on the backs of women not being taught about how, the system works and how to make it work for us.
Yeah. So can you give the audience some tips on credit card usage, being that you did work for a large credit card company? What kind of tips can you provide?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the first one I always say is if you are paying interest on your credit card debt, you are never going to come out on top. So, women will come to me and say, well, I'm earning rewards and this is so great. And no amount of rewards that you're going to be getting back is ever going to make up for the amount of interest. And if we're trying to put, actual dollars on this, on average, a credit card is going to give you somewhere between, let's say, 1% to 2% back in rewards. And you are paying 26% on average in interest, right? You can do the math. So you're never going to be making up, more than you're paying in interest. So that's the first thing. The second thing about credit, if you, again, are not going to be engaging in the debt cycle. The second thing is if you have credit card debt, the only thing you should be doing is paying that off.
Mm.
And as we talked about previously, your returns in the stock market are going to be so much less than you are paying in interest. So pay down the debt. So I've
Mm.
said two things about debt, right? Now I'll give some tips. So if you are not in credit card debt, a really amazing way to build your score, and we talk about it like going to the 800 plus credit score club at Sequin, is pay your credit card off once a week in full, if possible, instead of only once a month. And if you have multiple cards, do that on every single card. Again, if you're in credit card debt, this isn't going to apply to you, pay that off. But if you are debt free and you're using credit like a debit card, then pay it off every single week. That's going to lower your credit utilization, which is a huge factor in your credit score. And we've seen on average with our Sequin community a 20-point increase in just 1 week in their credit score by doing this really quick tip. And we've actually seen in just a few weeks, women have 200 plus point credit score increases. So, of course, there's no guarantees here. It depends on your personal financial situation, but it's a really great tip to not only help you build your credit score, but also keep you out of debt, right? If you're budgeting on a weekly basis versus on a monthly basis, it's so much easier to keep just aware of how you're spending and what you're spending.
Yeah, and that's an amazing tip. If you're looking to buy a house or you're looking to, get a loan on a house or a loan on a car, that's going to help you save so much money on interest rates because they're going to look at that credit score. So the higher your credit score, the more lendable you are, the better interest rate that you're going to get, which is going to save you thousands of dollars long term.
Yeah, I mean tens of thousands, right? And the way that I've always talked about this as well, and you shared with me too, is we really need women to have credit in our own names. And so, okay, so the stats are women are twice as likely to have credit in someone else's name, whether that's a parent or a partner. If all goes well, great, right? Unfortunately, many times it doesn't go well. And also, that other person whose credit you're tied to might not be engaging in the best credit behaviors as well, which could affect you. So it's so important for every single woman I talk to. I always say, have credit in your own name. That being said, you don't need to put all of your spend on credit in order to be building your credit history. You don't need to be paying credit card interest or only paying the minimum to build credit history. So the ideal place we want you to get is, you're using your credit card like a debit card and you're not getting into debt and you're keeping your utilization low and you're paying it off every week. If you're able to do all of those things, credit is amazing for those of us who are looking to get rewards and are looking to stay out of any sort of debt cycle. A debit card is a great way to go, and you can put a subscription on a credit card, set it on auto pay that off, and that'll be building your credit score, in tandem.
Yeah, great tips there. All right, Brenda, I have a fun question for you.
Okay.
If you could have a super talent or superpower, what would it be and why?
We kind of joked about this, right, in terms of having luxurious periods. I've thought about this a lot, kind of in a funny way, but also in a more serious way. And, one of the I always find a caveat with okay, if I were a mind reader, do I want to read people's minds? I don't know, right? If I could tell the future, would I want to tell the future? Like, would that make every day like less exciting? So I think the one I'll go with is kind of like a teleportation, I guess. I spend a lot of time in commutes and I don't mind it. I sleep really well on flights, but I would love the idea to just be able to go to this place and talk to this group of women about Sequin and then just be able to transport to another place and talk to this woman about Sequin and scream it from the rooftops how important financial independence is. So I think I'll go with just either super speed or teleportation.
Yeah, funny. I was thinking about something when you said that. Like, what if you had this pink magic wand or coral colored magic wand and you tap someone, you're motivating them to get out of debt? I mean, could you imagine the change in
Oh,
this world if we could just get people to get out of debt? There's a website, usdebtclock.org. And if you've seen it, it's the real-time numbers of the consumer debt in the US.
oh my
And when you
gosh.
when you look at the numbers, it's just astounding. Like we're getting further and further into debt every single day. So if I could just have that wand and be like, get out of debt, and people would get out of debt. We could use debit card. We'd never need the credit card because, well, we've got rewards and now we don't need debt. So I think that would be a great superpower for you.
Wow, I kind of got tingles when you said that to me. The journey of paying off debt is so challenging and can feel so lonely, right? And I think, for those of us who have experienced that, I just want to say you're not alone. And websites like the ones you shared are amazing. We have a bunch of resources in Sequin to help pay off debt and help you understand your time to debt free too. So
Mm.
wherever you want to go for that. But I just want to say, give yourself grace as you're paying that off. And it's not an easy journey, but it is so worth it. So whatever you're able to do to motivate yourself, and yeah, I wish I had that superpower, but just know that you're not alone. There are so many resources and other women who are going through this. So.
Awesome. All right. So if our audience wants to get in touch with you or apply for the beautiful Sequin card, where do they find you?
So you can go to sequincard.com, and just go to sequincard.com. That's probably the best way. You can follow us on Instagram at @sequin_card. We're on TikTok @sequin_card, on YouTube @sequin_card. So we have a presence everywhere, most active on TikTok and Instagram. So feel free to join us and sign up on sequincard.com. You'll get added to our mailing list as well. And we put out a bunch of amazing tips and just amazing resources, whether it comes to managing your financial life or just education about how to avoid the pink tax as well. So we'd love for all of the listeners here to be members, and we can't wait for you to, fight against some of that pink tax and fight off debt as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed having you on the show today.
Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you so much for tuning into Empower Her Money podcast. Hope you enjoyed this episode. Don't forget to subscribe, share this podcast, and leave a review wherever you are tuning in.